All right. It looks like people are slowing down coming in, so I think now is a good place to go ahead and get things rolling. So just a couple housekeeping things before we get started. Brett and I are going to be having a conversation and a Q&A at the end of this. So if you have any questions throughout, go ahead and submit them, and I will be curating those so Brett and I can have that conversation at the end. Would love to have your questions. It makes it super, super engaging. If anything happens during this live broadcast, we will come right back on and restart it. So just use the same link that you had before, and we'll be right there. We will be having some polling questions throughout. Brett will announce those. We'll do the poll, and then he'll share the results of those polls. So that should be a little bit of fun interactivity. If anybody has any trouble throughout, Brett's going to be doing most of the presentation. Just chat to me, and I will help you with any kind of audio or video issues that you might have. But again, the main thing is going to be getting those questions in. Good questions make for a great conversation. We're really looking forward to that. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Brett Stewart. Brett has worked with the Peer Executive Group's team with great results for quite a while. But back in the day, he got his bachelor's degree in mathematics and economics from Vanderbilt University, and then went on to get his MBA from Duke University. He grew up in Huntsville, Alabama, but now calls Atlanta home, which I would agree with. Atlanta's an amazing place, where he lives with his wife of 25 years, 2 daughters, and 2 dogs. And if you didn't hear from the beginning of our conversation, also likes to do some endurance sports like mountain biking with friends. But Brett's passion is helping entrepreneurs get what they want out of their business. He had a successful career in corporate consulting, turnarounds, and was even the CFO of a billion-dollar company. And then he decided to pursue his dream of becoming an entrepreneur. He went and bought a healthcare company, and he took it over and took it from a $400K loss to a $1.2 million profit in 4 years. But that didn't really get him where he wanted to go, as many of us know sometimes. And Brett was making every decision. It wasn't running like a well-oiled machine. He read the book Traction, learned about the Entrepreneurial Operating System. He applied that to his business, and after seeing the power of it firsthand, was a true believer and actually went back and got certified to be able to help other businesses do that. And so now that's what Brett spends all of his time doing, is helping other companies implement operating systems. He's done it with a couple peer groups, and he gets rave reviews. And today he's really going to teach us a lot about what an operating system is, why you need those types of things, how to apply those things. So it's not necessarily going to be Traction or EOS specific, but it'll give you a taster of how this would interact with your business. So Brett, with that, I will let you take it from here.
All right, thank you. So, kind of if the rough times in the world got you down a little bit, you can just write a bunch of nice stuff about yourself and have Josh read it, and it's guaranteed to make you feel good. So I'm going to flip over here and share my screen. We'll be walking through a presentation, and if you saw the flyer, if you read anything, you know that the topic, the question is, what's an operating system and why do I need one? Okay, a pretty basic question. As Josh said, I'm an EOS implementer. We're going to use some EOS examples, but this is not an EOS advertisement, commercial, or focused presentation, if you will. The big question again is, what are these systems? Why do I need one? Kind of spoiler alert, I believe you need one. The reason why is I want you to get everything you want from your business. And again, kind of hard times in the world. If you're feeling a little beat up, if you feel like, man, my business is so tough, I don't know if I can ever get what you want or what I want, I got confidence in you. You just need the right system, the right plan around you, and you can absolutely get what you want. So we're going to kind of start a little journey today, thinking about the systems that get you there. And before we even get started, I want to start with the first poll question, and Josh is going to pop it up, and it's just, what do you want from your business? And give this 30 seconds, okay, not forever. Just think about what's the big thing you want. Don't overthink it, but give a response there. Hey, this is what I want. This is, if I had my dreams, we would get out of my business. I'm going to give you 30 seconds or so to answer, and then we're going to get rolling. All right, about 10 seconds. All right, Josh, let's cue it up and see what we got. If you didn't get finished, we can come back to it. So some people want to sell. That's not the biggest thing. A lot of people, and this is common, I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, would love a self-managing business, but stay in for a long time because you love what you do. You just want it to run a little better. And then to transition to your employees or family. Great stuff. There's so many great family businesses. Your kids see you being an entrepreneur, or other people in your family see you being an entrepreneur. What a great way to use that as motivation and driver for your business. So good stuff. All right, so let's go to our agenda, if you will, or our questions for today. Question number one is, why do I need a business operating system? Okay, we're going to start with why. What's it? I think Simon Sinek wrote this book, Start With Why, and we're going to go for the why first, and then we're going to talk about what is a business operating system. Okay, generically, this category of systems that EOS and other things fit into, what is it? And then finally, how do I get started? Okay, we're not going to solve your question, solve your problem of everything to do. What we are going to do is get to some first steps. And once you take those first steps, I think the rest will come to you pretty easily. So with that, let's just dive right in, okay? Why should we run a business operating system? And I'll tell you why. I meet with a lot of entrepreneurs that are getting what they want from their business, okay? Their businesses are growing, they're doing well, they got time for their family, things are just going great. And I said I meet with a lot of them, but really it's a smaller percentage than you would think. Maybe 1 out of 5 people are really getting what they want from their businesses, but most of them are a little frustrated, okay? They're just not getting everything they want, okay? And as I talk to entrepreneurs and as I talk to other EOS implementers, there's really about 5 things that people are frustrated with, okay? And I want to walk through these. I want you to ask yourself, do any of these resonate with you, okay? So what are things people are frustrated about, okay? Number 1 is control, okay? Their businesses are running them instead of the other way around, okay? They're able to grow their business, but accounts receivable gets out of whack, or production gets off, or they have employee problems, or they're working 90 hours a week. They just can't keep control of their business and grow it at the same time, okay? The second frustration is profit. Now, if I need to be more specific, a lack of. I haven't met anybody, as long as I've done this, that says, hey, I'm making too much money, okay? But there's a lot of people that are running what look like good businesses. They're not making any money, okay? Pretty frustrating. Now, the third frustration is probably the most common. This is going to surprise you when I put it up here, but it's people, right? Vendors, employees, customers, employees, right? We can't live with them. We can't live without them. We tell them what to do. They don't do it, okay? And they're not bad people. And we're not bad people. We just can't figure out why it's working. The fourth thing is hitting the ceiling. Now, hitting the ceiling, I want to park here for just a second. Hitting the ceiling happens to every business, happens to every department, has to every person, okay? It's this phenomenon that you're working, your business is growing along, but at some point you just kind of hit a plateau. And you're working as hard this year as last year, but you're not growing anymore, okay? And you don't know why. Usually it's because complexity is built up around you and you're managing complexity instead of selling and serving customers, okay? But you've gotten stuck. And then the fifth frustration is nothing's working, okay? People go to the seminar or they read the book or they get the idea and they go tell their team, let's implement this, but it doesn't work, okay? And the reason it doesn't work is when people hit the ceiling, they start trying something new every month, okay? And you become kind of the flavor of the month, okay? You probably have some employees that aren't real excited about you going to this seminar right now or this webinar right now because they're afraid what you're going to bring back, okay? So the lesson there is we can't try something new every week. And so I see all these frustrations and I feel it because I felt all these when I was running my business. We had a great team. We served our customers well. We were in a great market, but for some reason we were just stuck, okay? And it's super frustrating. And I felt all of these things, okay? And it wasn't until I started getting a feel for systems and systems thinking that this started to make some more sense for me. So poll question number 2, Josh is going to put it up here. What are you frustrated about? Okay, you got these 5 choices. He's going to put up the poll question. And what is it that's got you stuck? Control, profit, people, you're stuck, or something else? Again, I'll give you about 30 seconds. All right, about 10 seconds. All right, Josh, what do we got? So kind of a even spread. Control, your business is running you, maybe working more than you want. Profit, not making enough money, a small percentage, so that's good. People, right? It's hard to manage people. It's hard to get the right people in the right seats, or you're stuck. So a lot of things going on and pretty normal, right? You're probably feeling some of all of these, okay? Well, I have good news, okay? And we'll start with this quote. Apologize, I'll get my screen to keep moving. Is your system is perfectly designed to get the results it's getting, okay? Or Edwards Deming, okay? One of the fathers of quality control, quality management. Every system is perfectly designed to get the results it gets. And you may not be thinking you're running a system, but you are. You have some kind of way of doing things. And if you're not getting the results you want, the answer lies in the system. And again, I felt a lot of these. I'm gonna walk through some of the systems I ran in my business, okay? And these were what I call my DIY systems, okay? Because these weren't familiar or organized operating systems. These were things I came up with. I thought it was a great idea. They didn't work so good, okay? Now, number one, the first thing I ran as a system was turnaround. And that was great when it was needed, okay? So we were in a turnaround mode for 18 months. I'd go in every day and we'd react to whatever came across our desk, okay? And react, and that worked well for a while, but after a while, it also created a really chaotic environment. So we needed some way to grow. Well, I thought, if my people are totally excited and totally on about our business, then we'll be able to grow. We'll be able to get what we want. So I made everything about my people, creating the best environment, the best incentives, everything about our team, okay? And that worked to an extent. I got some loyal, committed employees. I also got a little entitlement. I didn't have the accountability I needed. It was too one-sided, okay? And as I sometimes do, I reacted to my frustration by saying, all right, if the people approach doesn't work, let's just dial it in like the military. So I went full on process. Everything's gonna be process driven, okay? That gives some nice results. It gives you a predictable environment, an environment that you should be able to accelerate. But what happens when you run into situations that don't fit the process? Everybody freezes, okay? So it doesn't really work long run. Then I said, all right, here's the answer. I've tried all these things. I need to make it about customers. Zappos was really big back in this time, maybe 2009, 10, when I first started experimenting with systems. And I thought, if I can be like them, we're gonna do great. But what about when the customer's not right? I mean, it doesn't always work. And then I tried the financial approach. Let's drive everything from the income statement and balance sheet, and every bit of our operating system, if you will, be driven by financial, okay? That kind of worked. All of these have their benefits, and they're all important things, but they're not a system, they're a tactic. And we need a system that pulls it all together, okay? And then this gets back to the why. Why do we need a system? Because all these things that are important, we need a cohesive manner of moving those forward day in and day out. That's why we do systems. So let's turn the page a little and think about, okay, what are these systems, okay? What is a business operating system? And I'm actually gonna start with what it's not, because sometimes it helps to draw a little contrast, okay? So a business operating system is not a piece of technology, okay? Now, technology can help enable your business operating system, okay? But it's not a piece of technology. So please don't think you can buy an application and that your application is going to drive everything that you want your system to do, because too much of this is cultural, and the technology needs to support that, not create that. It's not a sales technique, and it's not a financial approach. It's not a certain way of doing processes. It's not a specific technique, okay? It's a system, cohesive, that creates the opportunity for you to be successful. It's not strategy prescriptive. Now that sounds like kind of confusing words there. What I mean is a good operating system is not going to tell you, in order to be successful, you need to be in this market, renting this kind of equipment, having this specific approach, okay? The system, again, sets the groundwork. It's not a silver bullet, okay? So don't think that EOS or scaling up or any other system is going to immediately solve your problems. Long run, it will, but it's not a silver bullet. And finally, it's not the star, okay? And let me talk about what I mean by that, okay? Let's go back to the operating system concept, okay? This is an iPad. A lot of you have seen these. So got an iPad here. iPad has an operating system, okay? The operating system controls the power, the data transfer. It controls everything about the way that operates, but the star is the applications. The applications you lay on the operating system are the stars, okay? A business operating system creates the opportunity for you and your team. You guys are the stars. It creates the opportunity for you to be successful, okay? So it's just laying the groundwork. So what are they? A business operating system is, it's a model and key components of your business, okay? And what I mean by that is any good system is going to say, here's the target. Here's the things we're going to strengthen, okay? Now, I hope we're going to have college football coming up here in a couple of months. And there's going to be some coaches at new schools, okay? And when those coaches get there, they're not going to say, hey guys, what are we going to do? Okay? They're going to say, I got a system. Here's how we do offense and defense and special teams and recruiting and strength and conditioning. And those are the components that their system aims to strengthen, okay? So the first thing you need to think about is, does this system I'm considering have a model of what we're going to work on? The next thing it needs is a proven set of tools for strengthening those components, okay? So what are the mechanisms by which we're going to take each piece of my business and strengthen it? Okay, and we're going to talk about that in a minute as in an example. And then what's the process for applying those tools? Okay, so I want you to kind of drill this into your head. Okay, a model, key components. What are we trying to strengthen? A proven set of tools for strengthening those components, and the process by which we do it. Those three things are critical. And if you can understand those, you'll know if you have the right the right operating system for you. Business operating system is a culture shift. Okay, and let me tell you, the biggest culture shift that I believe comes with an operating system is you become more systems focused than results focused. Okay, now, before you blow up the question box or the chat box, I am very, very results focused, okay? That's what we got to produce, okay? The funny thing about results is, if you get too focused on them, you never get them, okay? The way for long run, predictable, ever increasing results is to work the system the best you can today. And as we work that system, it creates the long-term results, okay? If you're down in this part of the country and you know anything about, going back to the football example, Nick Saban or Dabo Swinney, they're very systems-oriented people. And they're always saying, work the system, and you really can't lie, or you can't argue with their results, okay? And then finally, a business operating system is hard work, okay? It's not easy, okay? And that's really good news, okay? If it were easy, everybody would do it, and you would never get an advantage from it, okay? So these are the things, the characteristics that make up a system. What I want to do is look at a couple of examples, okay? And we're going to go to EOS now, okay? This is what I know best. Again, I'm not trying to sell you on EOS, but I want to show it to you as a context of what we're going to be talking about the rest of the day. So the first thing I said was, any good operating system needs a model with components. And so if you were to run EOS or traction or however you refer to it, you'd say, hey, my business, every business has these 6 components: the vision component, the people component, data, issues, process, and traction. And if I can strengthen each of those components, that a lot of the issues, the problems, the obstacles I have now are going to fall in place. Now remember, the system's not the star, you're the star, but when we strengthen those, then the groundwork is set for us to be successful. So when you run EOS, you know from the start, these are the things we're strengthening, these are the components, this is the model, okay? If you take another example, if you were going to do a commercial construction project, spit it out, you would say, hey, here's the structure, here's the mechanical, here's electrical, here's the design, here's the landscaping. Those would be your components we got to make great. With this model, these are the components that we need to make great. We also said that the second thing we need is a toolbox, okay? So in the EOS world, we have this toolbox, and these are a set of 20 tools that we implement over the course of the journey to strengthen these, okay? So we have our components. You say, hey, we have a vision component, and there's some tools here that we use to strengthen the vision component, okay? We have a people component, and there's some tools here we use to strengthen the people component. So at this point, you're like, okay, I know what the goal is. I know the tools I need to make happen. Now all I need is a process. And this is the EOS process. And we don't have to go into great detail on this, but what it says is, we're gonna have an intro meeting of 90 minutes. Then we're gonna have a day together to start putting in place the tools that strengthen some of our components. And then we're gonna come back for 2 days of vision building to get clear on that vision component, if you remember that. And then we're going to fall into a quarterly cycle where we're going through each quarter, setting goals, implementing tools, all along with the idea that if we execute this process against these tools, we will make this model, these components strong. And any system should show you those 3 things, okay? So that's what I want you to think about when we think about, okay, what is one of these systems? So let's talk about what are your options, because there's a lot of options out there. And actually, before I show you this slide, I want to do the next poll question, Josh. And that is, what are systems that you see people running? Okay, when you talk to people, what are some popular systems out there? Again, I'm going to give you about 30 seconds, and we'll come back. All right, how'd we do? All right, so you obviously have some smart compatriots out there running EOS, so glad to hear that. Some people running Scaling Up or Rockefeller Habits, Great Game of Business, Other, and None, right? A lot of people are running None. Now, if you go back to my earlier slide, you're running something. You have some kind of system, and it's producing exactly the results you're getting, okay? It's just not a formal system, okay? So what are some options? And let's spend a little time on here and think about, as we're thinking about Q&A, right? Feel free to pop in a question and we'll try to go deeper on these when we get there. So again, popular systems, EOS and traction. EOS is a good system. It's what I ran in my business. It's what I implement now. It's not the only system. It's not the only great system. I like it because it's comprehensive, yet simple and focused enough that you can implement it and get, as the name implies, traction. Probably the second system that I just run into a lot of people that use is scaling up a Rockefeller habits. So Vern Harnish was the founder of EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, if you've heard of that. He built this system. It is a very good system. I know a lot of people that use scaling up. They've had very good success. They have very good implementers in their network. And it's really, kind of tomato, it's just, whether you use EOS or scaling up, it's just a matter of preference. It's a matter of connection with that implementer or that coach. They're both good. Josh might be able to answer more about Rockefeller habits than me as we get towards the end, because I think he was into that or scaling up. I think scaling up is a little more complex, okay? But from that complexity, there's some real leverage it gets in certain areas, okay? So a good system, definitely worth considering. Now, third one I've been hearing a lot about lately is the great game of business. Now, the great game of business is a little different than these others in that, as opposed to being as system focused, and it's still system, but as opposed to being as system focused, it's more around if we can get the right incentives, the right mentality in our employees, get them thinking as an owner, gamify it where success breeds incentives and other results, then they will take care of the rest. So we don't have to be as heavy on how do we execute as long as we get everybody motivated the right direction. And there's a lot of appeal for that for some reason. I mean, not for some reason, for some people. The reasons that it works. Fourth one here is objectives and key results. Now, this is really focused on, as the name implies, how do we set the right objectives? And if we set the right objectives and the key results that identify those and a way to focus and execute on those, everything else will take care of itself. So it's more narrow focus. It's kind of like the great game of business in that it's more narrowly focused, but it's more focused on execution than the people side, okay? Is one better than the other? Not necessarily. It just depends what your taste is. And then there's a lot of other stuff out there. Okay, 4DX was a Franklin Covey thing that, or it is, that a lot of people are still running. It's the 4 disciplines of execution. It's very execution focused. Again, as the name implies. I've known some people who've been very successful with this. A lot of times it's been some bigger companies that had big strategy teams and clear marketing strategies, and they had a lot of the strategic vision stuff in place, and they felt like they just need disciplined execution. So that was good for them. Now, Agile, you might have heard of. That's software development process. It's not necessarily a business operating system, but for some people, it becomes so ingrained in their culture, it's the way they run their business, okay? And again, if you're in software development, which you guys aren't, okay, but with a lot of people are, then it can be a very good way to shift and set the culture of your business. Six Sigma, okay, I'm old enough to, I used to do some Six Sigma implementation a long time ago. Six Sigma is really focused on how do we squeeze variance out of a process. So processes vary a lot. How do we take that variance out, get very predictable, make our systems run faster? GE famously made this super popular, used it to drive the most valuable business in the world at one point, okay? It permeated their culture. I wouldn't consider it as an operating system, but it's an example. And then re-engineering was an old one. And that was where all this started. Hey, let's challenge the way we do things, okay? So these are all popular systems, and they're things I would encourage you to give a try, to consider as you're starting to think about what operating system do I use, what operating system is best for me. Moving on here. So let's talk about how do you choose your system, okay? How do I choose how I'm going to operate my system, okay? Or what system I'm going to operate, okay? Number one is, read or listen to the books. Now, I'll little self-disclosure here. I don't love reading management books, but I picked up traction when I owned my business. I had gotten introduced to it through a peer group similar to this. I picked up traction, and it just made sense to me. The way Gino Wickman writes, it resonated with me. And for whatever reason, it fit. And I figured, well, if his way of writing and then eventually seeing him speak, if that makes sense to me, the whole system will. So if you pick up one of these books and it just bores the crap out of you, I don't know if I'd give it a whole lot of time, okay? But read or listen to the books. If you're pursuing or thinking about EOS, there are not just one book, but there's 5 books, okay? Traction may not make sense to you, but Get a Grip or Rocket Fuel might, okay? And those are all on the website, or you can holler back at me and I'll give you more information about them. But those books are a little bit easier reads. They might be more informative. And you can always listen to books. We all spend a lot of time in cars or sheltered in place or walking or whatever we do. Okay, so listen to the book, see what makes sense. Okay, second thing is contact an implementer. Okay, wherever you are, find an implementer or coach or however they refer to themselves that runs and implements these systems. Okay, now if an implementer is worth his or her salt, they love doing this. They love talking about this, and they should be willing to spend all the time you want without any obligation, without charging any money. Okay, maybe not all the time you want, but plenty of time. Coffee, an overview of the system, whatever it is to help you understand it. So never be hesitant to contact those people. I'll just tell you from an implementer standpoint, I'm glad to spend all the time with people they want, okay? Because maybe they become a client, and that's great if they do, but even if they don't, they become a friend, they become part of my network, they become somebody I can help, and that comes around to everybody in the long run. So never be hesitant to contact an implementer. Understand the models and the tools and the process, okay? So while I'm all for getting with an expert, okay, it's on you to understand the models, the tools, and the process, okay? You have to have enough understanding to know if that person is making sense in their discussion, okay? So that implementer needs to be able to articulate to you, here's the model, here's what we're gonna do. Here are the tools we're gonna use, and here's the process by which we're going to do that. And then finally, which one will you commit to? Okay, and this is probably the most important one, okay? You can build a great business off most any operating system. It's very difficult to build a great business combining multiple operating systems, okay? Because so much of this is about getting a clear message, a clear process, and getting everybody in your business on the same page with that. And while you, as the business owner, have the mental capacity, the bandwidth, the understanding, maybe to say, I'm going to take part of this system and part of this one, and we're going to match it together, that's too confusing for the rest of your team. It's too complex. So I encourage you to find the one that you will commit to. All right. Now here's kind of the big question, right? Do I need a coach or implementer? I said earlier, you need to contact one. Okay, you definitely need to contact a coach implementer, let them educate you on how it works. But do I need one? Okay, so a few questions I want you to think through here. First, are you coachable? All right, so we got a lot of entrepreneurs in the room. Okay, us entrepreneurs, we went out on our own because we wanted to do things our own way. And just be honest, am I coachable? Okay, do I want help? Am I willing to take help? Am I willing to let somebody else be the expert on the system and then use that system to drive my business, okay? And if you're not coachable, you probably don't want to spend a lot of money on somebody to coach you. How big is your upside? That's a really important consideration, okay? If you're thinking about hiring a coach, you really need to ask your question, do I have a lot of opportunity, a lot of upside? And so Josh and I were talking earlier before we got started about athletics and endurance stuff. And kind of think in that context, the athlete example, you know, if I'm a, you know, mid-40s guy that runs 3 miles 4 or 5 times a week, and I decide I want to run a 10K, okay, 6 miles instead of 3 miles, or 6.2 instead of 3.1, okay? I don't need a coach. I can buy a book, I can go to the internet, I can find a training plan that's going to get me from 3 miles to 6 miles pretty easy, right? No big deal, okay? On the other hand, if I'm a 18-year-old high school track star and I've got great abilities and I've got the potential to get a full ride scholarship to college or maybe go to the Olympics, I need a coach, okay? It's not because I'm not talented. I'm more talented than the middle-aged guy that wants to run the 10K. So I don't need a coach because I'm not talented. I need a coach because I am, because I have such huge upside that if I leave even a little bit on the table, it's a big loss, okay? So think about that. If you've got a lot of potential, you probably need a coach and it will probably pay off, okay? And then the third question here, can you afford it and can you afford not to, okay? So I'm probably sound like I'm talking out both sides of my mouth. Maybe I am, okay? But ask yourself first, can you afford a coach, okay? If paying a coach causes you to be so cash strapped or so anxious that you can't focus on the process, don't do it, okay? Just wait. As much as you may need that system, wait until you feel good with the expenditure. You know, don't take on debt to hire an implementer, okay? On the other hand, can you afford not to? Okay, so if you could pay for it, but you're like, I don't know if I want to, or I don't know if I need to, ask yourself if you can afford not to, okay? And it kind of goes back to the prior question. If I have a big upside, I need to get the most out of that, and I need to get there as quickly as possible, okay? Because to not do either of those things is just leaving a whole lot on the table. I love this quote. Again, if you're old as me, you may know who Tom Landry is. What Tom Landry says is a coach who tells you what you don't want to hear, who has you see what you don't want to see so you can be who you have always known you could be, okay? And this to me kind of embodies these systems and why I do this, okay? If you know anything about Tom Landry, you know he's a big systems guy, okay? And what he's saying here in this statement is really implicitly a system and a coach is going to position you to do what you can be, okay? Tom Landry or me or the best scaling up coach or anybody else can't make you great. That greatness is in there. The system sets the path for it to come out. I want you to always remember that. You're the star, not the system. All right. So here were some of our questions for today. Okay, I want to come back. Why do I need a business operating system? Okay, I need one because I got a lot of potential. I got a lot of opportunity and I need a training plan and I need a coach maybe to make sure I get everything I can from my business because you absolutely can get what you want. Secondly, what is it? Okay, we talked a few different things about what it is, but the three main things are components. This is what we're going to strengthen. Tools. This is how we strengthen it. And the process. These are the steps we take. And then how do I get started? Okay. We talked about listening to the books, contacting your friends, do some research. Above all, when you start going down this path, find the thing that makes sense to you. It's your business. Okay. You don't need to get involved in some system because you think somebody else likes it or whatever. It's your business. Find what you like. So those are our agenda items. But before we close out, I want to challenge you to take some action. Okay. When we have a big problem, okay, if you're like me and you like to do things right, maybe a little bit of a perfectionist, we tend to procrastinate. It's so big. Okay. I want to challenge you to do one of these few things here, to go ahead and take a step towards building one of these systems. One, build your accountability chart. EOS calls it an accountability chart. Scaling Up, I think, calls it a functional chart of accountabilities. It's all the same thing. Lay out, here's all the seats in my business, all the roles that need to be filled. Remember, Jim Collins talks about right people, right seats. A seat is a role. We've got a finance person. We have a person that cleans the yard. We've got a person that cleans the equipment. We've got a person that does accounts receivable. We have somebody that runs the business. Lay out your seats, okay? There's a chapter in Traction about this. The E-Myth Revisited gives a lot of information about this, but lay out your accountability chart so you know who owns what. It'll give you a ton of clarity in your business. Build a scorecard, okay? Every system that I'm aware of calls for a scorecard. Small number of metrics that you can use to measure if you're doing the right things to be successful. Now, before you haul off and do this, please don't build a list of these are 10 things that happened last month. You don't want to be looking in the rear view. You want to say, these are the things I did this week that are going to make me successful next week. Okay? I made this many sales calls. Okay? Sales calls create opportunities, create deals, et cetera, et cetera. So measure the activities that are going to make you successful. Take a clarity break. This is an EOS term, but I encourage you to find some time to get quiet, to get away from your business, to get away from everybody, and think about what you really want. Okay? Now, a lot of us, when times are hard, we have a hard time thinking about what we want because we don't think we can get there. I'm begging you to go get quiet, have the confidence with the right system and get whatever you want, and then answer the question, what do I want? Because that's going to inform what you do. And then finally, ask a friend. You know, ask somebody, ask people what they're using, ask them what works for them, okay? Sounds simple, but sometimes we get so internally focused, we don't ask those questions that we need to. And that is it. That's the kind of initial 40 minutes on what's an operating system, high level. I hope we got some great questions.